said that's the last one. And then well, total, but it's really.
You had testing rules?
Yeah.
For phase 4.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm gonna explain why in a bit, yeah. Yeah, we'll give you some minutes.
Okay, I was thinking that.
Thank you, yes,
Occupational specialist or RD support?
Well, I'm just trying to suggest some alternative.
Guys, do you want out the door too? And I was.
yeah, really.
Yeah, it's so creative.
That's my explanation. Yes, the last one. Not even going.
Outside of the door.
Yeah, that's the last one. That's the last one.
What does it say?
We need something.
That's why. Okay. Thank you, Doctor. Hey, Todd, can we get someone to help me start this off? Is Jonathan around?
Yes.
Get away from me. You receive. So,
You know what, is there something you want to no, George, you don't want to say to the people who are there.
There isn't a wedge in the closet on the floor. Sometimes that's when they kind of shuffle. No. Here.
Well, you know.
Okay. Wait.
Sure.
You don't want, you have yours.
I'll first that. Okay. Not all of them have.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it is. I had to have
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:05 PM. Let's stand for a pledge of allegiance.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Olivia Fugero. Here. Vito Campanelli.
There.
Winifred Rodriguez. Here. Shannon Johnson. Here. Mara Juvicek. Here. Sharon Anderson. Here. George Stork.
Yeah. John, do we have any business?
Nothing other than what's in the board.
Agenda? Okay. Yes, I wanted to, give a little information. I provided you with some data. Looks like this here, and, you know, there were some questions surrounding why the meeting is still in this format. And we've been keeping up with the numbers, and you can see that the percentage of positive cases as related to those tested are on the right-hand column. And as of July 27th, the rates are out there on the upper half of the page. Some information, I guess my source is CNN News, for what I'm about to tell you, is that if the percentage is 5% or above, it's considered a hotspot. And you can see that McCook is at 6%, Lyons is at 11%, Forest View and Stickney are at 13%, Brookfield is at 6%, and those are our areas. I added a couple of neighbors there that are in the higher range as well. So with that was some information that led to the determination for safety to maintain the meetings in the same format. Now that also leads into our return to school planning. We previously posted for the community that we were looking at a blended and remote option. With this new data, the decision we've made is to go to the remote to start the year and look at phasing in, depending on analysis of dynamics such as the data and the hotspots and things like that. Oh, sure. So we've adjusted as it relates to returning to school based on the numbers of considering the villages we serve. We'll begin the school year completely remotely and consider possible in-person for special populations, including special education, homeless, low-level English language learners, and others on individual basis. So we're trying to look at that in a small portion to see, and try to have some, where we're analyzing other services with the respective groups that we're working with as well. So the plan is still progressing, but we can now focus on the remote process first and then make adjustments to the blended model or full in-person along the way, depending on safety numbers. While we know that the best learning takes place in person, there are lives at risk, and we do not take that lightly, especially being in an area with the higher levels that we just went over. We're working on this plan through the bargaining process with the teachers' union. Once finalized, we will post it on the website and communicate, but the initial structure to move to remote to start the year will be communicated. What we're working on is the finalization of the details. We're still working on those details. We have another bargaining meeting tomorrow with the teachers' union to finalize details. Any questions on?
I do. I had, and the remote, I think people have, it's pretty obvious that people are going to be in favor of that because there was a lot of fear about coming back to school. So, one is, I guess my question is now, it's twofold. I'm hoping that we're going to have some training for teachers to start remotely. And then maybe you're going to tell us about that. Then when you talk about the population, for those kids who are special needs kids, special education, lower English, what if mom and dad, they don't want to send it back? Is there an option, still an option for remote for them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. It's just, there's certain aspects that are more difficult,
Yeah.
and we'll have to dig into
Okay.
the resources.
Okay, but no one will be forced to come back, is my
Correct.
question. Okay,
Yeah.
and the other one just has to do with the chart where you say here, Berwyn is the same as Stickney and Forest View, which Forest View is 2 words, but, and that's not a big deal, but, so it's the zip code. So can I assume that because when I live in Forest View, but I have a Berwyn zip code, you have them lumped together, so is the number of tests completed and the positive results, is that zip code wide? When you say Berwyn, same as Stickney, Forest View? Because you don't have them broken out into, I was just curious to see if you had them broken out just by zip code.
Yeah, I'll take
Which
a
might
look
be,
at that.
okay.
Yes.
And I know you said you're meeting with the teacher union or whatnot, but is your goal to have teachers teach remotely as well? Meaning from their home, or are you gonna trying to require them to come into the building?
No, currently, the progress we've made on some information is that predominantly, we're going to have them teach from the building. We're gonna, and I'm gonna go over safety measures real quick in a moment, so, give some assurance to individuals that they're coming into a safe environment. But yes, but there are dynamics in it's gonna be complicated. So there are some additional federal leave regulations for different dynamics. Of course, we're going to adhere to those. There is always the ADA process, which could be a possibility of different dynamics. But then there's also some symptoms that the state is recommending that we don't have sick individuals come to school. You know, some of the symptoms being congestion, runny nose, headache. Some of the mild things that typically as hard, working people we try to work through, but in this case, those are recommended to stay home. So we're going to be discussing tomorrow, how do we handle that and balance it? Because I fear strongly that if we're doing that, that could be 4, 5, 6 teachers per building every day. And we had a meeting on call this morning with Kelly Educational to discuss a number of things. How can a sub support electronic remote learning? How many do we have? And then just we had the principals, everyone just trying to plan this morning how we're going to tackle this circumstance. But we may have to consider with these symptoms, it says to stay home potentially for 10 days, and unless you can come back with a COVID-free result on a test or an alternative diagnosis. So if I have allergies and my doctor says, yep, you got allergies, that may be a way to avoid staying home with just congestion. So there's some avenues that we need to work with the teachers on tomorrow and try to come to some agreement as to how are we going to handle this to make sure we're staffed, to make sure that kids are getting the best education they can from the teacher, because it's going to be difficult we were brainstorming how is a sub going to get access to Google Classroom. So we're thinking of making 2 accounts per teacher, one for the sub, one that has their password they can't mess with, but they have access to interact. So we're brainstorming and problem solving a lot. But
one thing my district is putting in place, again, it's a negotiation thing. Say like, I go to work, or I don't go to work because I'm congested or I'm coughing or I have a headache. They will give me the option of working remotely that day if I feel up to it, where I'm physically not in the building because I'm exhibiting symptoms, but I'm still physically able to work.
right.
Then we're looking into being given the option to work from home until we're in the clear, which would alleviate some of the sub issues.
That's a lot of the discussion I'm sure we'll be having tomorrow.
So I went to dinner last night at Wildfire. As soon as we walked through the door, they took our temperature.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're discussing with the union as well?
Yes, and what we're looking at are some devices to either walk up to, because I think there's a lot of fear by the teachers in handling that. Not all of them, but we're going to be prepared to have either the handheld ones or certain assistants, but we are looking into models where you walk up to and they read you without touching it. And so I could send a scanned email with the models we're looking at, working with those and considering purchasing.
Are you guys going to be using self-certification there, or are you going to?
Both. Yes, we'll be doing that because that's how we'll catch the congestion and the other symptoms where, the temperature machine is solely going to capture the fever, of course.
Well, Chris, in my building, I only go to work on Monday. Okay. They have that one where you walk up to, and it basically says it out loud, your fever is whatever. That's a HIPAA violation. Everybody in the lobby could hear it. So I mentioned this one, now they have it up front where all the babies here. So you have to be careful.
Okay. So we'll work with,
Those are some of the things we're talking about, the ones that actually told you locally, so you know.
Will we be reimbursed from the state for any of those? I know that some of those are very, very expensive. Is that part of the money we're
we
gonna
have
get?
CARES Act money, and then we also qualify for some other,
Okay.
it's called GEAR, I can't remember what the acronym is,
Yeah.
but there's some other money, that might be more toward early childhood, but it does go toward equipment such as that, or technology. I want to talk about, if we're good, I'll transition to talking about the safety measures that, Bob Coates has, asked me to share with the board, and then I'll be sharing this with the staff as well, and possibly drafting up a flyer and getting that on Facebook as well, but what we have, all staff will be provided the following: washable face masks, disposable face masks, face shields, vinyl gloves, 16-ounce sanitizer pump bottles, anti-spritz disinfectant spray bottles, and all-purpose disinfectant wipes. Each room will be provided sanitizer solution for the in-room dispensers. Secretaries will be provided with 2 acrylic partitions, 44 inches wide by 36 inches high, with a 6-inch height by 30-inch cutout for scanning papers and receiving documents. For their workstations, custodians will clean and disinfect on a daily basis to the EPA, CDC, and IDPH guidelines. There will be a checklist of cleaning and sanitizing displayed at each classroom and washroom. Always, classrooms and washrooms will be monitored for additional cleaning and sanitizing during the course of the day. There will be additional signage for classrooms, hallways, and bathrooms. Urinals, toilets, sinks, and water fountains will need to be sectioned off for social distancing. And finally, nothing substitutes washing your hands for 20 seconds several times a day, wearing a face mask, or face covering, and keeping your hands off of your face while social distancing. So that's my update.
Okay, do we have enough custodians for each building to do this during the course of the day? And then will they be doing other cleaning at night? Do we have the manpower to do this?
Yes, and with the, beginning being less populated,
Mm-hmm.
we're keeping an eye on that as well.
Because there's still teachers, even though the kids aren't coming back.
Right.
And we're still gonna have a lot of teachers.
Yeah, and then there's some efficient equipment that was, purchased in addition with the additional Clorox machines, things of that nature. So they've done some trials and are in the position of stating that they can get this.
I don't know what I meant when I left the room, but do we know which direction we're gonna go? Are we gonna go full remote?
Full remote, yes.
Full remote.
Yes, and looking at phasing in, depending on the analysis of cases and data like that, to see what it might be safe to start the transition. But we are servicing the, look on an individual basis,
Okay.
looking at the special populations, homeless, special needs, and, low EL, English language learners. Yes.
Are we gonna have, some tech, so, like, I know Plainview is going full remote, but they gave all of their teachers 6 weeks worth of curriculum, so everybody was doing the same kind of general thing, so it wasn't all wonky all over the board. Are we gonna be doing something similar to that, so that everybody's kind of following the same?
And I have to make an adjustment to the calendar at likely the next meeting, because we have 5 remote learning planning days that we're looking at, and we're still discussing this with the union as well. But right now, we're tentatively looking at 3 days in addition to the, institute days at the beginning, so 5, maybe more days. We're looking at those at the beginning to prep and get, Derek is putting together some, the curriculum, power standards. And one session will be about, the importance of what we need to teach and the power standards as defined by the state. And, making sure that those are being covered, and then we're trying to recoup any of the time lost last year. So we're gonna be in a much better spot. We will have devices, and you can see the technology individuals are working very hard to make sure we'll all have devices. We have orders coming. We are almost certain they'll all be here in time. All the staff and the students will have their own device.
So, you're still working with the teachers union to work out any contingencies, like with bargaining as far as working environment and whatnot. And you're still figuring out the whole, everything. Today's the 29th? 8th. We start schools on the 17th. So are we gonna have all of that in place?
Yeah, at the same time, we're planning a distribution of packets. You know, there's a whole lot in cleaning, distribution of Chromebooks, distribution of materials, because seeing this coming, we're gonna put together a model that is much better than what we did in the past. When we were hit by this, and we had to do the best we could. Didn't have time to plan or have all the materials.
Once we get all of this figured out, we're up and running. We have 6 weeks. Are we gonna work on some type of contingency plan? Should this have to extend beyond the beginning of?
Again, we have the ability, it's not as good as in person, but we do have the technology in place. We were looking at connectivity if all these people are on. We had that discussion yesterday with the tech department. Do we have the capacity to maintain that and sustain it, and trying to be predictable as to, oops, this one needs low, let's talk to AT&T about increasing and what we have to do there. But we're prepared, if we have to do this for the long haul, to be able to. It's going to be much more interactive. There's not going to be packets sent home, that type of thing. This is going to be much more engaging. Now that we have time to plan, last spring, we did do about 10 different sessions on Google Classroom alone. We are doing more now that have begun now on a voluntary basis for those who didn't make those 10. We did a ton of training during that closure session last year, and we're going to continue to do more and try to enhance and get better at it.
Will we still be providing breakfast and lunches like we had been?
Yes, 2 days a week, the full 5 days worth, just how we have been all summer.
I have a question about the households that have more than one student and only one Chromebook. What happens there?
We have enough for each student.
Oh, so every student will
Every.
get it? Okay,
Yeah, last year we did like one per household because we didn't have enough.
right, okay.
This year we are prepared for teachers and students.
That was the question that was asked.
So the 5 remote days that you're talking about training, I know we have the 2 institutes at the beginning of the year, and then there'd be 3 additional days. So if kids, if school would start to open on the 17th, so would there be institute days Monday and Tuesday, and then the rest of the, what day will the kids have to be ready to come back? Now that we have those extra 3 days thrown in.
And then again, that's still,
Oh, you're still working that out?
we still have that a little bit tentative right now, but
Mm-hmm.
at least we're looking at least 3.
Mm-hmm.
We want to hang on to 1 or 2 for the
Mm-hmm.
transition. If we get to come back blended or some other version, we're hanging on to see, do we need 1 or 2 later on to try to be able to switch up and, you know, just adjust, because there's going to be a lot of adjustment too.
I asked that because I recently saw a couple of school districts that pushed their start date back. They were gonna start around maybe the same time we are, but now they're starting right at the end of August, and I didn't know where we were in this.
I know, and granted, like, everything has changed with the end back in March. So accountability was not the greatest. And especially, you know, they didn't help when they said, whatever your grade is, March 31st, you can't get less than that. So not so much grade schoolers, but high schoolers were like, I'm out. Are we gonna have some type of more accountability where teachers are now gonna keep regular attendance
Yes.
or what have you?
Yeah, that is all in the guidance, and that is required. And we do take attendance, and we do assign grades, as we did prior, yes.
That was one of the things that we discussed with, bringing all the teachers in, because when you're at the work environment, there is a lot less distractions, your dog, your baby, their neighbor. So they're here the whole time, whenever we can get them here.
So classrooms will be as it would be, is that what you're saying, or is this still gonna be?
We're looking at a 5-hour day
Okay.
with at least 2.5 of like hours of, that's been new. Actually, I need to talk to the union about, because we were under a different guidance amount. And, that doesn't mean that just because I'm doing 2 hours of instructional or a percentage of instruction that not engaged with the kid. I just may be giving feedback. I'm still accessible as if I were teaching a lesson to the whole group, but now I'm in groups, and I'm still accessible. That doesn't mean that someone just closes up, all right, I'm done for the day. No, we're still working. We need that connectivity between the students and the teachers. That's so valuable.
And let's not get anything wrong. I don't think you meant it to come across this way, George, but what you just said was a little bit insulting towards teachers. I think teachers did a great job balancing their dogs, their families, their
I'm not
kids at
attacking
school,
anyone. Don't
and
take
their
things the
babies.
wrong way. You
And
have a good
also
way of
with,
saying things without making them.
working from the
And it is
classroom,
just a
it
natural
is
thing.
much,
When you're at
much
home,
more preferred by
there's more
teachers to
distractions
work
than when
in the
you're at the
classroom.
work environment. And
So
I don't care what you
therefore,
do for
I
work.
think if you
It
give the
is just
teachers
a
a
natural
choice, they
thing.
would like to
I'm
be
not
working in the
insulting
classroom
anything.
opposed
We're
to
not
working
saying
at their house.
that or that angle to turn everything into a negative. That is a general thing. If I'm doing my job from home, it's not as productive.
Maybe for
If it
you.
was, it
Maybe
probably
for
might
you,
work.
maybe
It
you
isn't.
don't have that
This is in a
ability, but
general.
other people do.
If you have the need of attacking people, this is not.
I'm not
the- this
attacking
is
anybody,
productive,
I am making a
okay?
statement that you
No,
need to
that's
give
a
credit where
really
credit is
statement.
due.
You love to make things
You
negative and not
need to
highlight.
give credit where credit
You
is
can't
due. You need to
bring
give
that
credit to the
negativity to
amazing
work.
job that these
This
teachers
is me.
did when they were
This
thrown
is
into this
me.
situation.
I'm not attacking anyone. Business meeting.
I
Okay,
didn't
moving on
say
with
you
public
attacked
comments.
anyone.
Wait a minute, before you move to public
You already
comment.
had too many
No,
words.
I know.
Public comments, and for those that are calling in, please raise your voice
You
so
know,
we
I
can
received
hear you.
calls and
You had your
texts,
opportunity.
you're not
You
gonna
had
set
your
me up.
opportunity.
You're not a
And the
dictator.
meeting is
You don't
gotta
tell
move
us,
on.
no, this
You
is
had
the time for
three
the
different opportunities
superintendent.
to talk, and if he's not part of the
I
meeting,
received calls
we're
and
not
texts
listening.
regarding Winifred's statement, when I told them,
We have a
what I told them is I
public
considered the
comment, and
source.
for those that are
No,
calling
I'm
in,
not a public
please
comment, I'm a member of the
raise
board and I
your
can
voice
talk.
so we can hear you.
I said I considered the source. Okay, what I told them is that I considered the source. Winifred didn't even read her own statement, which I might add, read similar to the ugly attacks the PSC.
That is not part of
during
this
the
meeting.
last, you let her,
That is
7.5
not
minutes.
part
you let
of
her.
this meeting. Keep that to yourself, so we
You
know,
let her
email
have
whoever you
7.5
want to email,
minutes.
you love emailing
No, you're not.
people. That is not part of this meeting.
Her issue is.
We have 5 minutes break.
No,
We have-
no, you don't have the right to do that. You let her.
That is not
7.5
part
minutes.
of this meeting.
I support
Am I
it.
wrong?
You guys are out of, you're not conducting business right now.
Police.
This is a business meeting. And
Felicia,
if you guys aren't conducting business, then
but
you gotta move the meeting.
here's the deal. At the last meeting, a board member was given, a majority board member was given 7.5 minutes, people timed it, to make a statement.
Because people
And
are.
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the attorney. And I feel that we have the right to make a statement too. But this is what happens, we get shot down.
Because.
You never get shut down. You talk endlessly every
No,
meeting.
that's because
And
you
you
don't
always
like
get
it.
your
You
time.
talk about all the meetings
Time
we
and-
get together, we
Time
haven't
and
had
after
any
time,
time
and
to
you always
record.
get it. That is not part of this meeting today.
So if you want to, just for purposes of moving the meeting along, if you want to make a comment during public comment.
Okay, then that's it, now let's read that, you
Public
got
comment
it.
is coming up next.
You got it.
You're about to go into public comment.
Okay.
And as I said, for those that are calling in, please raise your voice so we can hear you.
Okay, good evening. For anyone joining the meeting via telephone, you will automatically appear in our list of meeting attendees. During public comment, the meeting moderator will call out the last 2 digits of your phone number in the order they appear in the meeting. At that time, if you wish, when the last 2 digits of your number is called, you will be able to make a public comment. Please press *6 to unmute yourself at that time. If you don't say anything when your number is called, we will wait 5 seconds before continuing on to the next number. Anyone wishing to make a public comment will have 3 minutes to speak. After the 3-minute mark, you will be alerted that your time is up, and you will then be returned to a muted state. Anyone joining the meeting must remain muted outside of their designated speaking time. For anyone using Google Meet, please check the chat box for the moderator's instructions on making public comment. And I'm going to start out with public comment doing the written ones that were emailed. So Jessica Pinto, she has an upcoming first grader. Per the disaster proclamation located on the agenda, in-person attendees was deemed not practical or prudent and limited to 10 people. Yet, in 20 days, you are supporting the model of up to 15 children and 1 adult in a classroom for at least 5 hours. What happens when a staff member or student tests positive for COVID-19? Your hybrid model has Group A coming one day and Group B coming the next day, and any disinfecting happening between those days. Is any disinfecting happening between those days? You have enough social work support to service the entire district when, not if, there is a death within the student body or among staff because of COVID-19. Will teachers be provided with free and proper PPE from the district? Will teachers receive hazard pay? Will teachers have to use their sick days if they become sick with COVID-19? Please keep the children of Lyons and our teacher staff by implementing remote learning at the beginning of the school year and using science to determine how and when you can safely reopen school. Next one, Valerie Cassell. She is writing tonight because we are in the middle of a pandemic and we need to keep our staff, students, and families safe. Please revert to only online classes for every student. In Florida, 8,000 kids under the age of 17 have been tested and confirmed to have COVID. This illustrates that children can get COVID and they do get COVID when they are not secluded and kept safe at home. Cases are on the rise all over the U.S. and Chicago had to roll back to phase 3. Many of our community members work in Chicago, putting our entire school community at risk if their children are hybrid learning. Also, many families are not taking this situation serious enough and are traveling and visiting family in other states, and many are planning trips in early August before school starts. I fear they will not isolate their kids for 14 days before sending them to school, and this puts everyone at risk. You have the power to revert to only online learning now, and I urge you to make that choice immediately before we have any deaths in our school community. Next, Jennifer Brower. She's from the American Heart Association. She is writing to thank and recognize the PE staff at Costello, Edison, Lincoln, and Home Elementary School for their support for the American Heart Association through the Kids Heart Challenge program at their schools this year. This program is designed to teach students in a memorable and fun way how to stay heart healthy, not only physically, but mentally too. All of the above PE teams do a tremendous job instilling these habits in their students with this program. Not only do these educators teach their students to be healthy, but they reiterate the importance of helping others and offer an outlet for donations to the American Heart Association to go towards advancement in cardiovascular research. Local hospitals to provide guidelines for the best care. While donations are not required to participate in the program, these 2 school communities still raised a total of $4,000 to fight our nation's leading cause of death, heart disease. This equates to over 80 lives saved. We are inspired and we are grateful for both the work these educators do, the support of the entire school communities at home, Costello, Edison, and Lincoln. Now more than ever, education on staying heart healthy is so very important to keep Heart Strong with COVID present. Okay, Tracy Vanna, Costello parent of a 5th grader. She has some concerns about the reopening plan. I sent questions via email to the board and Mr. Rivera. I appreciate Mr. Rivera's reply, but as of today, I have not received any answers. In all honesty, I do not believe it is his fault. The district decided to unexpectedly move up the start date, so there's not a lot of time. From that, I have answers on how either option will work. It's unfair to expect parents to make a uniform choice, an uninformed choice. And the district reversed this decision so parents have time to review a thorough plan and make an informed decision on the health and well-being of our children. Or better yet, instead of spending so much time focusing on how to make the guideline work, you should be focusing on the students' learning. Many experts have said we'll return to virtual learning at some point. Choosing remote learning from the start will allow the district to properly train teachers and research e-learning curriculum. Teachers can use the following week to prepare lessons until in the academic year. Everyone's safety is important. Don Weiner, Costello, parent. I have a few questions that can and should be answered tonight. When school starts, will the students be in class all day or half day? What will be the start times and dismissal times? If they are in class all day, will lunches be served? Will there be before and after care? Will all schools have a nurse? If not, will the health aides be brought to take temperatures of everyone coming into the school? Thank you, Don Weiner. Joanne Schaefer, President. Good evening, Board. I only have a few comments. The first is regarding the relatively closed meeting tonight. My comment is this: put on the big person's britches and hold it in the cafe. You can't avoid public comments forever. Second is, please note that the bill listing this month is over $5 million. Please review your spending and ask questions. Third, the $65,000 for one nurse plus another $25,000 for benefits will cover at least 3 nurses' aides. How is this fiscally responsible? Fourth, once again, I am asking the board to conduct a forensic audit of 103 financials. The numbers are not adding up. Fifth, let's get the schools open and make sure our children make up what has been lost and continue to progress. Okay, Nan Dermel, GWMS parent, has a few questions for the board. What guarantee do parents have that children and staff will be safe? What happens when a child is sick? What are the protocols for the rest of the children and staff? What happens when a child has medication to take at school and there is no medical staff? What was the outcome of the email that was sent to people about a month ago, never got brought up again, when I was told names came from Skyward? Jennifer Krugel, parent. I am hoping to get information regarding the school buses. Why are the school buses allowing 47 students at a time on the bus? This is not safe for our children and our schools. Vanessa Montalvo, parent. Good evening. I was inquiring about the hiring of the new preschool director, as well as what their plans for preschool students, I reached out a couple of weeks ago to Superintendent Rivera, and he did reply back saying they were interviewing, but I have not heard anything since then. With registration dates coming to an end, I would hope an answer will be given ASAP. Thank you. That's it for me. So what are the moderators?
Are you not following protocol for all the school closing, the kids coming in? I think no one watching the news and it's not you or the board making these decisions.
Well, it is theirs making the decision, which is the job. But also, these questions, I'm guessing, were submitted before what you just stated.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
So before, even, we didn't know until tonight. Like, so up until 7:06, we thought it was the choice, but you just stated it's not.
Right. So the moderator is on, and I'm sure we have parents and, Google Meet parents that are on.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. I received, Marcy, the next board member, no, wait a minute, whatever. I received calls and texts regarding Winifred's statement, and what I told them is I consider the source. I wouldn't have even responded to this except the board president let this be part of the record. It was out on the website, and it's part of the minutes. What I also said is that, I treat remarks that are not even read by the person who wrote them as the same thing as an anonymous letter. If you don't have the courage to own it, I don't have to recognize it. I don't believe that issue was a school board issue and should not have been brought to the board meeting, but we all know how this board runs. I do not run a blog. I did not attack anyone, although I do find the attack interesting because the PSC had no problem publishing hateful campaign literature during the last 2 school board elections. Everyone will remember that famous FBI mailing in 2017. As far as being political, I'm not part of the PFD that is run by the mayor of Lyons and accepted large contributions and used the office at the mayor's, used the mayor's business office to shoot the videos. That's political. I'm not affiliated with any local politics. No village leader contributed to our campaign, neither of them, which would explain why we were outspent $30,000 to $4,700. Shannon and I don't even live in the same village, so the politics issue is mute. What I am concerned about, however, is the fact that our superintendent took sides. My opinion is that a good superintendent would not have read that pack of lies. A good superintendent would have stayed out of it. He told us before although he did tell us before he read it, that President Torres had asked or told him to read it. When I was growing up and got myself in a jam and made a poor decision and tried to put the blame on somebody else, my grandmother would say, Margaret, if someone told you to jump off a bridge, would you? And I told her no. You know what, Mr. Rivera, I'm very disappointed because I don't even have to ask that question. You've already jumped.
Well, Margaret, did your grandmother tell you that it's not nice to lie?
But I'm not discussing this with you.
I have a public comment.
She has a public comment.
I have a public comment. Shannon Johnson, board member, public comment. I will start my own timer. We are all familiar with the board majority's antics when it comes down to business of the school district. However, at the last meeting, things were taken too far when a statement was read by Superintendent Rivera that was supposedly
They're board member Rodriguez, and all you do is take the opportunity to make.
Excuse me, Lisa, do I not have the right? I have the right. I'm pausing my time and starting over.
Everybody can make a public comment, but you gotta remember, you don't have to respond to public comment. When people say, if you guys don't wanna make responses, that's fine, but just let people make their comments and, understand the time parameters, everybody has to stay in their time parameters.
Sure.
And then move on.
I will start over at my 3 minutes then. We are all familiar with the board majority's antics when it comes down to business of the school district. However, at the last meeting, things were taken too far when a statement was read by Superintendent Rivera that was supposedly written by board member Rodriguez in regards to a Facebook post made on a page where I am listed as an administrator. Normally, as a responsible leader, I would ignore such a statement. However, being that it was read publicly and it is posted in last month's meeting minutes, I feel the need to have my statement put on record, read publicly myself, and included in this month's meeting minutes. Board member Rodriguez stated in her statement, Jubasek and Johnson, who run the blog, decide which comments are published and which are removed. This is not true. We do not approve comments that are posted. As I stated in an email response to board member Rodriguez, had I seen this comment, I would have immediately removed it. However, by the time I was made aware of the comment, it was had been removed by another administrator of the page. It was then reposted by board member Rodriguez's daughter to a Lions Facebook page that has over 4,000 people who could see it. So I asked, if they were so offended by such a comment that a page of about 5 to 100 people may have seen, why did they repost it to a page where over 4,000 people may have seen it? Board member Rodriguez emphatically stated that our children should be left out of board business, and I agree. However, then her daughter went on to mention my daughter, who was 7 weeks old at the time, in her Facebook rant, which just made them both look like hypocrites. Board member Rodriguez accused me of having my own selfish politics. This is just laughable and, again, hypocritical. It has been proven that if she is the one who is political, every vote she makes is dictated, and it is well known that her husband works for the Village Alliance, and therefore she chooses her own political agenda instead of voting for what is best for the school district. Her voting track record is proof that she does not care about the district. She cares about her husband's job and her livelihood at the expense of the children of District 103. My track record proves that I've never gained anything. My family nor I have ever received favors or awarded any contracts to pay back political contributions. Speaking of husbands, she also brought mine into her statement. She stated that my husband was an activist. That's right, he sure is, as am I. We look out for our community. We fight for what is right. We stand up against political bullies such as the board majority, and we will not back down until this school district does whatever it can to ensure that these children get what they need in order to succeed in life. She also went on to state that it is our responsibility to focus on the needs of our school children of the school district. She is absolutely right. So I asked, when will she begin to do so? I highly suggest she practice what she preaches. The fact of the matter is, a community member chose to post an inappropriate statement on a Facebook page. The comment was removed by another administrator because they saw it before me, since I am not on Facebook 24/7 and do not get paid $2,000 per month on retainer to work this page. However, it would have ended there had board member Rodriguez's daughter not reposted it, and if she had not chosen to write such a libel statement and have it read out loud at a board meeting. Board member Rodriguez's actions, as the actions of the superintendent and the board president who directed the superintendent to read the statement publicly, prove that they are the height of unprofessionalism, disrespect, embarrassment, and a disgrace to this
o'clock.
Okay, now the moderator will take over.
Wait, I have a comment. My brother did.
Good.
I'd like to make a comment stating that my daughter posted it on the post. She shared it so everyone could see what liars they are and what hypocrites they are. Talking about people's children. So my daughter wanted to make sure that people knew what she was talking about.
Oh, so we made the
That's it.
statement?
That's
We don't have to
okay.
reply?
That's
We
it.
made the
Well,
statement, we don't have to
moderator-
reply? Okay, Sad.
You are accusing the other
You know what,
Sad, go ahead.
It is, sweetheart.
Look at the mirror.
Okay, let's
Sweetheart.
You're telling me, she is doing
I
that.
just heard you saying, use the foul language.
I did not use foul language.
Yes, you did.
You told me last, it's on record, you told me
And
in
you
public
just said
that.
it now.
Roll up, Roll up.
These people on the phone.
All right, so we are now going to begin public comments, starting with Tony Jackman.
Thank you. I wasn't going to have any comments tonight, but I feel the need to defend the teachers of District 103. As you know, I am the Teachers Union President of all 200 plus teachers, and we are proud of the professionalism that our teachers have shown and the work that we put into what happened last spring and the work that we're going to put into this fall. I am both personally and professionally offended, George, by what you said. And my hope is that it was a slip of the tongue rather than what you really believe about teachers. We are scared for our lives, George. And the idea that we would sit at home and not do our jobs to the extent because we have families at home is very, very offensive. I want you to think about what teachers have to do every day and maybe have a conversation with some of us so that you can learn a little bit more about what a teacher's life is really like. Because that comment would not have come out of the mouth of someone who understood what we have to do every day and the concerns that we have with not going back to school as well as going back to school. Please, George, I am asking you and any board member who is thinking the same thing as you are to have conversations with the teachers of District 103 and ask them what their concerns are about coming back to school, whether students are there or not. For example, every different school district has a different plan. We have teachers who their children who are not old enough to be on their own are also going to be on a different schedule than us. What are we going to do with those kids? That's a concern for teachers. We're not just people that get hired. We have families. We are people that have lives outside of our jobs. So please, I implore you, have conversations with the teachers of District 103 and learn what it is they give to the students of 103 every day and what they are concerned about. Thank you.
All right, we will now begin going down phone numbers, starting with area code and then the last 2 digits. First will be 630 ending in 65. Next will be 708 ending in 21. Next will be 708, ending in 30.
Hi, this is Tom Weiner. How you all doing tonight? I know I had sent in some questions that Shar read, but now that I heard that the district is leading towards remote learning for everybody to start out with. My question is, on this remote learning from home, is there going to be set hours for the students to go online and learn? Because parents like myself, we have to work, so we're having plans in place for the blended learning, and now it looks like it might be all remote. Are there set hours that the students have to be online, or can they do it when it's convenient for the parents and the student at home to go online and get the learning they need? I know I'm not going to get an answer tonight, but hopefully someone can call me within the next few days, because like everybody else, everybody's scrambling. It's new to everybody, but these questions need to be answered. So please, if someone can call me within the next couple of days, or let me know when the mass emailing or posting is going to be, so everybody can understand what's going on and when the students actually have to be online learning. Thank you.
Next will be 708, ending in 44. Next will be 708, ending in 49. Next will be 708, ending in 66.
I muted it. Maybe it's over there though.
Next will be 708, ending in 93. All right, the final one will be 708, ending in 96.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, Tony Parker, member of the public. Looking at your numbers for your June 30th financial report and your PowerPoint on the budget, you have a discrepancy of over $400,000 between the total revenues and the total expenditures, which should be the same numbers. On your June 30th, page 2 of the financial report, it shows that you budgeted $1.998 million for purchase services. In actuality, you spent $3.365 million. We really would like an accounting for that. Also, in your projected budget, you show on page 12, as of 6/30/2020, $14,200,864 in the total fund balances. You project for 6/30/2021, $13,064,204. That's more than $1 million decrease. How can you say on that projected budget that you only have a projected deficit of $286,000 when you're reducing your fund balances by over $1 million? Also, the supposed deficit, whether it's $1.012 million or the $1.4 million that's in the financial report, in actuality, if you look at your actual revenues, take the actual expenditures as of June 30th and subtract, you have over a $1.8 million surplus. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello.
Hello?
we can hear you.
Yes, I've been trying to make my comment, but it didn't go through. Can I speak now? Hello?
You may
Can I
speak.
speak?
You have 3 minutes.
Yes.
You can speak, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good
Hello.
evening. Good evening. Earl Johnson, resident and taxpayer. First of all, let me say thank you to our hardworking teachers for all you do and know that our community supports you. I'd like to respond to a comment made at the June school board meeting when PSE board member Winifred Rodriguez referred to me as Shannon Johnson's activist husband. Mrs. Rodriguez, I most definitely am an activist, and I love fighting the good fight against corruption in local politics, including the Village Alliance and our school board, in particular yourself and the other 3 PSE board members, Vito Campanile, Jorge Torres, and Olivia Quintero. Remember, you were the ones that accepted tainted campaign cash from politicians under current federal investigation, shady businessmen and their companies under current federal investigation, a convicted felon company who was convicted of battery against a female, and let us not forget a law firm that gave big contributions in order to secure a coveted school attorney position. Yes, I'm an activist and proud of it, especially when it comes to bringing to light corruption. I'd also like to speak about Mrs. Rodriguez's husband, who at an earlier board meeting put his hand on a District 103 parent. Mr. Rodriguez also sought to attack and bully me on social media himself and another Lion Village employee. The bullying and attacks got to be so vicious and personal that I was forced to seek help from my superiors, including the law enforcement department at work and the Lions police. Now, if I'm an activist, then what does that make Mrs. Rodriguez's husband? Thank you.
We have one final comment from Valerie. Username Erlyn.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Mr. Rivera, I want to thank you for reviewing the numbers and doing what is best for the safety of our students.
I'm sorry.
However,
I'm sorry, can you state your name just so it's on record?
oh, sorry, Valerie Fosselt. Okay, let me start again really quick. This will be really short. Mr. Rivera, I thank you for reviewing the numbers and doing what is best for the safety of our students. However, I do not think having all of our staff in the buildings will be safe for them. Some of our staff members have health issues, and it should be a choice to be in their classroom or at home based on their family concerns and needs, not based on some stereotype based on a false narrative. As a parent who had teachers who did remote learning in the spring, I had some amazing experiences with some of the George Washington teachers and my first graders teacher. It was phenomenal. Every day my first grader logged in, Zoomed with her teacher. It was great. She had that connection. She had that education. We had lots of communication. I also had that same experience with the middle school teachers. Not every teacher did it exactly the same. Some uploaded videos, some uploaded tons of articles that kids could read and respond to. Some actually had kids in groups discussing things, reading passages and discussing the passage. It was great for something that was done on the fly. If you let your teachers run with that and you gave them the training to make that better, I trust that every student in our district will benefit because our staff are phenomenal. Please do not chain them to a classroom in a building where their health could be put at risk based on Mr. Torres' opinion of lazy people. Thank you.
Moving on, June-to-date financials, the financials are attached to the agenda for the public. Moving on, presentation of the tentative budget. I'm now calling for Dr. Sheila Johnson to enter the room to present the preschool year 2020-2021 tentative budget.
Hi, good evening. Tonight I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the tentative budget for 2020.
I gotta back up this meeting. Turn on?
Yes, better turn on this one.
Dr. Johnson, while they're getting that, fixed, there was some questions from a person that talked during public comment, and I'm sure I could probably give you her concerns about the budget and figures. I'm not sure if you heard that. But what I'm asking is that at some time, when you get a minute to address her concerns, and, could you give the board, just an email, an explanation of what her concerns are? Yeah. Because otherwise we wouldn't know, and it could make an effect, or there's perfectly logical explanation, but we should, be aware of it. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, as you know, education is financed through state, local, and federal funds. This slide here is basically listing the different, revenue sources from our local, funds. Our food service sales, food fees, sports, restaurant fees, and most of our funds come from, local taxes. The next slide is listing our state revenue. General state aid is under the EBF funding, evidence-based funding. Evidence-based funding consists of 5 different program grants. And that is, special ed, general state aid, funding for children requiring special ed services, summer school, and English learner education. The next slide lists our federal revenue. And with the federal revenue, it's primarily provided through grants and reimbursements, and mainly directed towards the support of low-income households, or is limited to special programs for populations, like for Title I, Title II, Title III, NSLP, National School Lunch Program, IDEA, and the new one at the bottom is the ESSA grant. This is the grant that we received through the CARES Fund. This is the grant that we use for our PPE equipment, the list that Chris read off earlier. We use those funds for the PPE, and we still have some of those funds remaining for when students actually go. This slide here is basically listing the revenue fund slide operations. So this consists of, as you can see on this slide here, 83.56% is a significant amount of revenue that goes to education. And operations and maintenance is the second one in line, and then transportation, the amount decrease as you go down. The next slide lists revenue by fund for our non-operating revenue. 78.72% goes to our debt. And the non-operating revenue consists of debt, capital projects, and real estate. This slide details a breakdown of local, federal, and state revenue for the ED fund. 59.06% comes from the local fund, 31.87% goes to state funds, and non-operating revenue being the debt capital project in Rock State. As you can see, 100%. Now we talk about our expenditures by fund, operating. As you know, most of the revenue, expenses go to ed fund for personnel and benefits. As you can see, a big chunk of it goes to ed fund. The next, going in is transportation, IRS. This slide lists our expenditures on the non-operating side. It's 86.72% discharged to debt. A big, large chunk, more shares of debt. And then 13.28% goes to life safety. This slide lists expenditures by item. And as you can see, for the operating fund, and as you can see, salaries once again takes up the bulk of those funds, 58.75% goes to salaries. The benefits comes in second at 94%. As you go down, this slide lists the fund balance as of June 30th, 2020, compared to the projected fund balance of June 30th, 2021. And the fund balance for June 30th, 2020 are the actual. The fund balance for June 30th, 2021 is taken from the ASB State Board of Education form.
So the 2021 was projected?
Correct. And this next slide, the next two slides, is a comparison of fiscal year 2020 revenue and expenditures. These two slides list the surplus and deficit for each fund. As you can see, the ed fund for 2020 had a $1.6 million deficit. If you look at the 2021 slide, it's up $181,304. If you look at the overall total, $1.3 million deficit in 2021, and then the difference for 2021 is $296,285. So basically, the handout that Shar gave you, I wanted to point out that those two forms were taken from the NC budget form for last year and this year, where you see the $1.5 million deficit for 2019-20. That's the overall deficit. And then for 2021, the form that's following that one, that's the negative $47,000 deficit for this. So for this year's budget, some of the things that impacted this budget are, we added a 3% increase for our teachers, according to the teacher's contract. We added 2.75% for the aides contract. Benefits increased 5%. We've replaced a few staff positions, and they had higher increases. And we adjusted salary for mid-year hires. We had some employees that started like in October or November, so we had to make sure that their salary was for full year for 2021. We increased transportation by 3%, food service increased by 3%, and tuition increased by 5%. For the most part, we kept revenue the same as vouchers, which means whatever it is we said we're going to receive, or what we received, which are the actuals. We didn't want to increase the revenue too much because we're not sure yet of, how the COVID and the closures and the grant funding is going to impact us yet. We did receive notification from ESB for our pre-K grant that it's going to decrease to 0.95%. And this particular slide is basically telling you how do we go from a $1.5 million deficit to $47,000 deficit. So basically what we did was we streamlined staffing to manage costs. So the first two bullet points go hand in hand. So we took a look at job descriptions and duties to make sure staff and resources are used in the most efficient and effective manner. We revised these job descriptions and asked some staff members to take on a little bit more responsibility so we didn't have to refill those positions. We renegotiated contracts to cut costs. For example, ComEd, we received rebates from ComEd. Direct Energy, we locked in a lower rate for 5 years. And for Hayes Mechanicals, the boiler system, the rate is frozen for 3 years at 3%. We also took a thorough review of the budget and identified a few discrepancies. I guess with the transition and we didn't have a full-time person in position, there were some accounts that were overfunded, some accounts were underfunded, so we had to just make sure that those accounts balanced out and that there was a need for those funds. Next, we leverage consultants, which means we outsource a few services. For example, QNet will be taking over our technology now. And finally, the ESSER funds that we receive for Chromebooks and our PPE equipment and a lot of our other technology needs. This concludes the summary for 2021 tentative budget. I want to remind the board that this is a tentative budget, which means it's subject to change. So if we have any changes from now until September, during the September meeting, we will let you know what those changes are. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, so I know you said it's tentative, and the aid, for all intents and purposes, that's kind of a tentative amount right now.
Correct.
No contract. But there's nothing on here for custodial increases, and I know their contract is up as well. So,
we're in the process of negotiating the custodian contract now.
right, but I'm saying, like, are you, you don't have anything listed here for, like, even if you're going on their last contract as a holding place, you don't have them listed as part of.
Yes, that's why this is a tentative, and more than likely, you'll see that in the next, the final budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the report. And you've given us a lot of information. So I guess my question is, because I had a similar question that Sharon did about, you know, the placeholder for the custodian. When, I'm hoping that there's going to be an opportunity perhaps at the next board meeting with questions that, you know, are concerns or something that we come up with. We'll have a chance to go home and take a look at this report you gave us, plus what was in there. Maybe we'll have the answer to the questions that Mrs. Parker brought to the board today. So when do you anticipate, I suppose my first question, that we're going to have an opportunity to talk about this budget again before September, when you're going to bring it to us? Or how are we going to handle those kind of, well, we don't have a committee of the whole meeting anymore, where we had another meeting where we could bring this to and have our questions, you know, answered.
I know I can respond to the question that we received, but I'm not sure if there will be another meeting to discuss any questions, or you can submit your questions to Shar, and I'll be happy to answer.
The thing with that is that every board member should hear the answer. So I'm wondering if we can have a portion of time at the next board meeting when you can come back, and there may not be any, or very few questions, or maybe the questions that we have will be answered when we get an email from, because I think she brought up some good questions about numbers and deficit and all of that kind of stuff. And in order to make an informed decision and a vote, we should all be getting the information. Just throwing it out there.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't think I know. It was mentioned that in October, before you were here, that more money should have been put out for big capital projects. Has that been done? I see like $5 in the capital project fund.
Yeah,
is that something that could change in the final budget?
I met with the director of Buildings and Grounds, and right now we don't have any capital projects going on. We have the roof projects were recently done, and we have the fire alarm projects that were done, and then you have some plumbing projects that were done, but they don't qualify as capital projects.
So those would all have been last year's budget anyway?
So we have some going on now this summer that would impact this budget.
But that's accounted for?
Correct.
Anything else? Moving on. Moving on with the consent agenda, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda after removing item B1, Village Electric from the bill list to be voted on the next regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
But I didn't understand it.
Okay, I am looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda after removing item B1, Village Electric from the bill list to be voted on the next regular board meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Can we,
Any comments?
yeah, I have a question for Felicia, oh, she's ready.
So we grab her?
Yeah, that would be great.
Bathroom.
No, I was just outside in the chair.
Sorry.
I don't know.
George made the motion to pull B1. I wanted to know if we can, pull 2A, so we can discuss that and vote on it separately for the consent agenda.
You can pull, you don't have to, you can pull anything from the consent agenda and it's voted on separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have to vote on his motion first, though?
You already made a motion to pull something off.
You don't even have to have a motion to pull something
Okay.
off. It just, when you just say you want it off, you want to remove, it just comes off.
But you're not pulling the entire bill list. No.
No.
You only get one,
Village.
that one bill. Okay. But you're pulling off,
I want to
2A.
pull 2A.
okay.
Where's 2A? Oh,
Are we voting on the consent agenda?
minus whatever
Right, minus those two things.
the things you pulled, right?
What was that, 2A?
2A is John Lewis, school nurse, Stella. And Village Electric. And Village Electric, yeah.
Please.
Olivia Quintero,
Yes.
Vito Campanelli,
Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez,
Yes.
Shannon Johnson,
Yes.
Mark Jubicek, Sharon Anderson,
Yes.
and George Torres.
Yes.
So now we have to vote on 2A.
Well, the first, I will go in the order, so the first one is what, the bill list? Is that what you?
Yeah, B1, Village Electric.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then you guys would discuss, whatever discussion you want to have, and then you vote on it.
First, you gotta make the motion, though, to vote on it, right?
Well, then you're gonna have discussion, yeah.
Well,
I mean, you
or
can
actually stated that these will be done in the next regular meeting. There is actually discrepancies with that, that was in the packet.
Oh, no, now we're talking about
Okay, I thought you were talking
what
about the first one.
Shannon pulled off, so we need
Okay.
to make a motion for 2A, and then first and second, and then discussion, right? Okay, but do we have? What are we voting on right now?
Yeah.
So you voted on the consent.
minus,
Minus Village Electric and what Shannon pulled off, which was 2A, and that was the district nurse. So then you voted on that already. So now, we need to vote on 2A.
And the village nurse?
No, because he said we're gonna do that at the
At the next meeting,
Right.
okay.
So,
Okay, so 2A, like, to keep it on or to remove it?
2A to remove it from the
Separately.
list, from the consent.
consent agenda.
That's what we're
Right,
discussing
so-
right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need to make a motion.
Do we have a motion to approve item 2A of the consent agenda?
No. 2A, which is
Yeah.
from the consent, not of the consent.
Support personnel. Here, you have it.
I'll make that motion.
So, we have a motion for voting on item 2A, support personnel. Do I have a motion? Do I
I
have a
make a motion.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, but
Okay.
Any discussion, ma'am?
So I have a question. This is for a school nurse at Costello, right?
What, this is,
That's the difference. So it means she'll be staying at Costello but can move around? Is that what that means?
she will be at Costello, but that's one of the smaller buildings,
Right, but she can go,
but she'll be able to help supervise the other issues, at the other schools.
okay, and, we did not get her resume. We got a different person's resume. Were we supposed to get this resume?
We sent out the early childhood director resume.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was looking at the school, you're right. We don't have a resume for her. So is she, RN, LPN?
RN, over 20 years of experience, steady, I think the last 9 years were in one location. Yes, RN,
Okay, and then does she have her school nurse certification?
no.
No. Is that something she'll be working towards?
I don't know that we discussed that. Colleen did the interviews with these individuals, so I can check with her. We sent an update on the nursing a little bit. I don't know if it was in there or not, I'm trying to recall from what I read.
it was.
Do
Okay.
they need a certification for school nurse here?
So it would be, if they had the certification, then they would be paid off of the teacher's salary schedule versus not. So then they would be part of the union versus not.
Correct,
It protects them a little bit more, so that's why.
But this is not, she's not part of the union now.
correct.
She is not, no.
But don't we have to have at least one certified school nurse in the district?
Not anymore, they changed that, sorry. They had to back off
I
on
don't know.
that, they find it. Right. Mhm.
Regulations.
You know, my thing with that is that we already have paid some nurse to get certifications and that thing, I believe, so we're not
And Chris, on that
in
update,
any kind of, commitment with that portion of that certificate.
on the update that you gave us regarding the nurses, you had indicated that you were gonna bring 2 nurses up. Is this one of the 2?
Yes,
And the other one, you're just not ready for?
I thought there was going to be 2, I'll see if,
Okay, I just wanted to know if she
Yeah.
was one of the ones that, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Call the roll?
Vito Campanelli,
Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez,
Yes.
Shannon Johnson,
Yes.
Margie Bissett. Yes. Sharon Anderson,
Yes.
Olivia Quintero. Yes. George Torres.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on. Board reports that our policies on the first reading that will go on for the second reading at the August 25th board meeting. If there are any questions on the policies, please reach out to Superintendent Rivera. Moving on with action item A. I'm looking for a motion to approve the resolution related to displaying and publishing notice of the district budget hearing. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? Call the roll.
Winifred Rodriguez,
Yes.
Shannon Johnson. Margie Bissett. Yes. Sharon Anderson.
Yes.
Olivia Quintero.
Yes.
Vito Campanelli.
Yes.
George Torres.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on with action item B. I am looking for a motion to approve the resolution authorizing elimination of business technology employment position and honorable dismissal effective September 1st, 2020 as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Moving on with item.
Winifred Rodriguez,
Yes.
Shannon Johnson.
No.
Margie Bissett. No. Sharon Anderson.
No.
Olivia Quintero.
Yes.
Vito Campanelli.
Yes.
George Torres.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on with action item C. I'm looking for a motion to approve the resolution eliminating positions and authorizing paraprofessional aides reduction in force effective September 1st, 2020 as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Call the roll.
Shannon Johnson.
No.
Margie Bissett.
No.
Sharon Anderson.
No.
Olivia Quintero.
Yes.
Vito Campanelli.
Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez.
Yes.
George Torres.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on, with action item D. Looking for a motion to approve the employment contract for Tim West, Director of Early Childhood Education in the amount of $92,000, which will be prorated for fiscal year 2020-2021. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I think we know about it. Okay?
Ms. Khan?
I do, it's just,
Go
I don't remember talking about changing this into a 12-month position. However, when I read this, it says that it's prorated. So am I to assume that you turned that into a 12-month position? And then you had also indicated, when I contacted you several weeks ago, about the before and after care, you also said that, you were looking into making before and after care a part of this position. So I guess it's twofold. Is this the same contract, same length contract that Chris Newell has, or have you?
Longer.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
It's longer. It's not 12 months though.
It's less, yes, mine is 260, this one is 230.
Is that more than the principal's work?
Yes,
Okay. So it's like it's not 12 months, but it's more than Chris Newell did. And then what about the before and after care? Did you change your mind on that?
no, I want that to be part of this role and responsibility, yes.
So she's gonna take care of all of that?
Yes.
Before and after school care?
Correct,
We're not talking camps, we're talking just childcare. Yeah, or are we talking?
no, the whole thing.
Summer camp, spring camp, everything, okay. Okay.
Does she know that?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Well, the way you answered it, it was like, yeah.
well, yeah, that was, yes.
So, her resume is so super impressive, like, but, she's done a lot of special ed, so how is that tying in with, like, doing preschool?
There's a lot of special ed preschool as well, yes, there is.
And are we gonna have preschool with this remote learning?
Yes, we're getting some guidance, it's real slow right now, but they just did give out a little bit of it, I haven't dug into it yet, but it just came out. And it's slow going though as to how they're gonna do it, but they did give the okay to do it remotely. It's very play centered and contact centered, so I'm not sure what it's gonna look like, but we did get the okay to do it remotely. What that's gonna look like just yet, I don't know.
Anyone's guess at this point?
Was it, preschool for all, would they be considered that at-risk population that could possibly come in person if it's deemed necessary?
Good,
So they
yes,
could fall into that?
it could, yes.
Is this originally K through?
No, it's pre-K, 0 to kindergarten. Yeah, actually,
Fourth grade
birth.
or fifth grade or something like that?
No, just to kindergarten, pre-K. It's only 0 to kindergarten, 4 or 5 years old.
One roll. Okay, Marge Rubicek.
Yes.
Sharon Anderson.
Yes.
Olivia Quintero.
Yes.
Vito Campanella.
Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez. Shannon Johnson.
Yes.
And George Torres.
Yes, motion passes. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:30 p.m. Do I have a motion?
Winifred.
Olivia. Call the roll, please.
Sharon Anderson.
Yes.
Olivia Quintero.
Yes.
Vito Campanella.
Yes.
Winifred Rodriguez.
Yes.
Shannon Johnson. Marge Rubicek. And George Torres.
Yes.